welcome. Thank you for joining me as I share some thoughts and ideas for moving from more interprofessional education in communication sciences and disorders to higher quality education in our discipline. I'm Jennifer Watson from Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas, and I have spent more than a decade coordinating our interprofessional education, or IPE, program in the Davies School of Communication Sciences and Disorders. Today, I'm pleased to talk with you about the importance of teamwork in our professional activities and about how we can improve our efforts in developing effective teams and team members. Throughout this discussion, we will have moments where we will pause and consider how you might apply the information to move forward to higher quality programming at your institution. I would like to start by sharing some myths related to teamwork. Now, my use of the terms teams and teamwork is intentional and reflects how our work in interprofessional practice and education is grounded in decades of science, examining the role of effective teams in creating meaningful outcomes in many different settings and contexts. So let's look at our first myth. Teamwork is nice, but not really necessary. I often hear educators refer to collaboration as a soft skill that would be really great to have, but may not be necessarily core to effective practice. Hence, should we really be spending so much precious time in our curriculum teaching teamwork and how to be a better team member? So to those naysayers, I say there is strong evidence that coordinated, safe, high-quality care depends on reliable teamwork. There have been multiple meta-analyses across disciplines now for many years that have demonstrated that teamwork increases success, reduces errors, as a result, it increases safety, saves lives, boosts our performance, reduces costs, which should ring true to our administrators, improves retention of professionals in work settings, and much more. So, given these positive outcomes, I think it's very encouraging to see that there are high levels of interprofessional collaborations in our discipline, with most speech-language pathologists and audiologists reporting that they have engaged in interprofessional practice in the past year. When looking at these respondents, we also see that they believe, about 3/4 of them believe that their interprofessional collaborations have been satisfactory. So let's look at our next myth. Being an effective team member comes naturally to individuals. Well, all one needs to do is to reflect on teams that you've been on to know that not all team members are equal in their effectiveness. Being a team member, good team member, an effective team member does not come naturally to students and professionals. The good news is that we can learn to be better team members. There is extensive evidence, which it continues to grow in many disciplines, including our own in CSD, that demonstrates that team training is effective and that it enhances teams' actions, as well as their interactions, outcomes, and satisfaction of the team members. The science of teamwork has provided strong evidence about what effective teams do, feel, and think. For example, we know that effective teams have members that have a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities on the team. These members are also driven by a clear shared vision and clear goals, so everybody is on the same page. That's helped by having a strong coach, and we know that through shared leadership, that coach will be different depending on the team and what the shared vision is and what they're working towards. Teams also that are effective also engage in cycles of pre-brief, which maybe you call that a huddle, and then they perform, and they also include that important debrief. Much has been written about the critical role of team debriefing, which is something I don't know that we always include in our IPE activities with the students. They need to have a conversation about what worked and what didn't work for their team. Effective teams also know what the appropriate norms are for the behavior on the team, and that creates a culture then that leads to better outcomes as a team. And they also have supportive organizational conditions. I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about what support from organizations might look like in just a bit. These are just a few of the known characteristics of effective teams, but having a clear understanding of what makes a team work provides clarity about the expected knowledge, skills, and attitudes that we're targeting when developing students' and professionals' abilities to collaborate. A look at the current landscape of IPE in CSD programs reveals that nearly all programs report incorporating IPE, IPP approaches in their academic or clinical curriculum in their graduate clinical degree programs. This may, in part, reflect the inclusion of interprofessional collaboration in ASHA's academic accreditation standards. Also, 70% of CSD programs include explicit learning constructs. For example, they mention things like the IPEC core competencies in their curriculum. I will talk more about those competencies in just a bit. 65% of CSD programs incorporate some kind of learning continuum. So they differentiate, for example, knowledge versus skills versus perceptions and attitudes and behaviors. All of these are differentiated. Despite this high percentage of programs reporting that they implement an IPE approach, as of this 2021-22 academic year, only 42% of audiology programs and 54% of master SLP programs incorporate into their curriculum all four what some consider to be the core IPE framework components representative of exemplary IPE programs. So what are those four components? They include having the learning constructs, such as understanding specifically what you're targeting in your program. Naturally, 2 or more professions are involved if you have an interprofessional program. And it targets learning on the continuum. So we're not talking just about perceptions, but it also targets behaviors as well. And this is one that I think programs often are now addressing, but they are struggling to do this and are growing in this area. They connect the academic learning to the clinical practice in the area of IPE. So those are the 4 fundamental core components in exemplary IPE programs. But what is the impact of the training that we are doing, whether we have the 4 components or not? How is this preparing audiologists and speech language pathologists are to engage in interprofessional practice teams that are effective? Here's some interesting survey results from ASHA. About half of the SLPs and a third of audiologists report that they feel very prepared to collaborate. But only a third feel that they're very prepared to lead the teams. Almost 2/3 report that they had some kind of IPP education and training, and that could have been professionally and or in their schools. And then 88% indicated that they acquired knowledge and skills to collaborate while they are on the job. That's not surprising. They're learning with and from each other. Although new graduates may be exposed to more recent interprofessional education experience, we're seeing that there's evidence that the new school clinicians are reportedly lacking in their collaboration skills. This is a reminder that quality IPE is not simply exposure to the concepts. There's much more involved. Also, we know that effective team training is important as a predictor of using interprofessional practice in work settings. A recent study has shown that if you've had prior training, you are more likely to collaborate in the schools. So let's go to the next myth. Stakeholders see the value of teamwork training. Okay, so here's the question. Is that true or not? What do your students, faculty, clinical preceptors, and administrators think and feel about IPE? Have you asked them? We have, and we're often surprised by their answers. So, for example, although our students provide very high ratings of our IPE experiences and events, when asked if they would participate if this was voluntary, they say likely not. So certainly it's not considered a priority, and the focus is on their professional development and not necessarily their interprofessional development. So it's really important to know what people are thinking and feeling about IPE, because that will impact what they do and their actions to support our collaborative training. So if you've been involved in developing and promoting interprofessional education at your institution, you're certainly aware that not everyone is committed to enhancing the interprofessional curriculum. So why is this the case? I think that in large part, it's because folks don't understand the connection between teamwork training and how this makes a difference in how we collaborate, and ultimately what this means for our patients, clients, professionals, and others. So I would encourage you to watch for opportunities to provide the evidence and to champion the interprofessional experiences that you are offering, and not assume that all understand these connections. Connect the dots for them.